Hello, Willowbrook family. Today's daily devo is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. There are many complex subjects in this world. Technology, science, economics, and politics can all be complex. But one thing we all have in our everyday lives that can be really complex is our relationships. In the midst of pain and hurt and mistrust, it's easy to lose our sense of biblical objectivity when it comes to our relationships. How are we to act when things are not going smoothly? Wouldn't it be great to change things up and to write Paul a letter and ask him to answer these complex questions? Well, actually, in chapter 7, Paul was answering a previous letter written to him by several members of the church. They asked Paul specific questions about marriage, singleness, and divorce. And you can imagine, when you're living in a very secular and an immoral culture, things can get overly complex. So Paul takes time in this letter to address these questions. But before we get to his answers, we need to understand the city of Corinth at that time. Corinth was known for its strategic trade and location, great economic prosperity, cultural diversity, multiple religious practices, and a terrible moral climate. Corinth's reputation for immorality was known well into the ancient world. So it's not surprising to know that the members of the church there faced many moral challenges. Relationships were definitely one of them. Paul tells them that a man should only be married to one wife, and a wife should only marry one man. He also tells them to quit being selfish. Be a team together. Marriage is not a place to stand up for your rights. Marriage is a decision to serve one another. The wife should please her husband, and the husband should please his wife. And don't play selfish games with one another. Paul also says, sometimes I wish everyone were single like me, a simpler life in many ways. God gives the gift of the single life to some and the gift of the married life to others. And whatever God has given you, you should serve others above yourself. If we were to learn that simple truth, many problems in our marriages and other relationships could definitely be avoided. Paul goes on to talk about divorce. If you are married, you should stay married unless you have biblical grounds to divorce. And this is often caused by one or both spouses not serving the other above themselves. Paul then answers another question about people who are in mixed marriages, where one spouse is a Christian and the other spouse is not a Christian. Should the Christian leave the non-Christian? Well, the short answer is that the Christian should not leave the non-Christian, because they may be the only Jesus that the non-Christian sees and experiences. However, if the non-Christian has no desire whatsoever to love Jesus and follow him, and the non-Christian walks out on the Christian spouse, then they need to go ahead and let them leave. Basically, Paul wants us to know that through this chapter, that there is no time to just waste in this life. Don't complicate your lives unnecessarily with petty jealousy and selfish ambition. Keep your relationships simple by placing the other above yourselves, making time to focus on God and his work together as a team. Paul spends a great deal of time in this chapter giving you very practical applications to keeping your relationships Christ-centered and focused. And as you read through the chapter, if there are verses that apply to you, they are going to stick out like a sore thumb. So, take the time to read them, even if it makes you a little uncomfortable. Pray through them, and you will see that God's message is clear. And fortunately for us, it's not that complex. Have a great day in the Lord, Willowbrook.